The Battle of Miraflores occurred on January 15, 1881 in the Miraflores district of Lima, Peru. It was an important battle during the War of the Pacific that was fought between Chile and the forces of Peru. The Chilean army led by Gen. Manuel Baquedano defeated the army commanded by Nicolas de Pereira guarding the second defensive line of the Peruvian capital city. 2 days later, Lima, the capital city of Peru, was occupied by Chilean troops. Gen. Baquedano's forces marched into Lima triumphant, while Peru's president and his officers fled into the interior, leaving the country without any government. Even after the fall of Lima, the war continued between the occupation army and the troops of Andrés Caceres for another 3 years. During the occupation of Lima, Peru's National Library was burned, while a number of other monuments were ransacked by Chilean forces and taken as war trophies. During the battle, Peruvian naval officer Captain Juan Fanning became a national hero for leading a spectacular infantry charge of Marines that nearly outflanked the enemy. Fanning's brigade caused some Chilean casualties until running out of ammunition, then continued to fight with knife and bayonet until Fanning was mortally wounded. 400 of Fanning's 524 men were killed during the charge. Prelude. After the Chilean victory at Chorrillos, a truce was declared between both sides while peace conversations took place. The Chilean objective was to obtain an unconditional capitulation and avoid another battle before entering Lima, divorce of France. The failure of these peace talks led to the second battle for control of Lima. Peruvian defenses. During the peace conversations, Pereira arranged his army in a second defensive line at Miraflores. The defenses of this line were arranged in a similar way to those at Chorrillos 2 days earlier. A 12 kilometers line extended from the beach at Miraflores until the Surco River, formed by tent strongholds about 900 meters apart. This line was divided in 3 sectors. On the right flank, under the command of General Andrés Caceres, Redoubt N1 was defended by the 2nd Battalion commanded by the Provisional Colonel Leca. Right next to this forces, the Guardia Chaloca Battalion, led by Carlos Arrieta, and the Guarnición de Marina Battalion commanded by Captain Juan Fanning. Right next to it, the 4th Battalion was posted in the Redoubt N2, under the order of the Provisional Colonel Ribeiro. This stronghold was by the railroad. The Redoubt N3 was defended by 6th Battalion commanded by Provisional Col. de la Colina. On the center of the line was Belisario Suarez Division. On the left was located the division commanded by Justo Paz de Villa. The 8th Battalion was set on Redoubt N5. The 10th Battalion was at the Redoubt N6. 12th Battalion on Redoubt N7, 14th Battalion on the Camacho Bridge, and on the right of this last unit, the 16th Battalion. In total, the Peruvian forces had 10,500 men between the regular army and the reserve. The Chilean forces. The Army of Chile had a strength estimated about 12,000 men and was divided into 3 divisions and 1 reserve as it follows. I Division of Navy Captain Patricio Lynch, 1st Brigade of Colonel Juan Martinez, formed by the 2nd Line, Talcar, Atacama, Colchagua Infantry Regiments, 2nd Brigade of Col. Jose Dgo. Amunategua had the 4th Line, Chacabuco, Coquimbo, Artilleria de Marina Infantry Regiments and the Quilitar and Melipilla Infantry Battalions. 2 Division of Col. Emilio Sotomayor, 1st Brigade of Col. Jose Fco. Gana, composed by the Buin, 1st Line, Esmeralda and Chilean Infantry Regiments. 2nd Brigade of Lt. Col. Orozimbo Barbosa was formed by the Lautaro and Curico Infantry Regiments, and the Victoria Infantry Battalion. 3 Division of Col. Pedro Lagos. 1st Brigade of Col. Martiniano Uriola, composed by the Aconcagua INF Regiment and the Naval INF. Battalion, 2nd Brigade of Col. Francisco Barcelo, formed by the Santiago and Concepcion infantry regiments, plus the Valdivia, Barnes and Corpolican infantry battalions. The reserve, made of the 3rd Line, Valparaiso and Zapadores infantry regiments. The artillery consisted in the regiments N1 and N2. The cavalry had 2 regiments also, the Cazadores de Caballo and the Cazadores de Yungay. First movements because of a skirmish between a small groups of Chilean and Peruvian forces, in the night of January 14. Colonel Lagos ordered his Chief of Staff José Eustaquio Góraz Chaga to send out a small force in order to scout the terrain at the south of Barranco. This resulted in the 3 division placing on the southern edge of the Surco River. On the vanguard were deployed a company of the Santiago 5th Line Regiment and 40 soldiers of the Aconcagua Battalion and some artillery pieces, adding up 150 Chilean troops at the north of Barranco. Lagu's division was stationed on the vanguard because it didn't had as many losses as the others at Chorrillos. At this time, in the Peruvian lines, Gen. Pedro Silva made a formal review of his troops in order to raise their morale, which was very low due to the impact of the defeat at Chorrillos 2 days ago. This movement in the defensive lines made the Chilean officers become suspicious and strengthened their advanced troops. The Navales Regiment and the entire 5th Line Regiment were disposed to the right and to the left of the railroad connecting Barranco and Miraflores. Now the Chilean vanguard counts 1,100 men. At 1000 hours, Martinez's reserve was ordered to move in direction to Barranco, arriving at 1100 to their destination. At 10:45 hours, Gorostiaga, who was even more concerned about the vicinity of the Peruvian forces, persuaded Col. Lagos to put the whole division in formation. After this, the I Division moved towards Barranco. Col. Martinez's brigade began to move at 1300 hours, but Col. Amunategui's brigade didn't advance until 1400 hours. Meanwhile, Gen. Baquedano ordered the cavalry to advance over Barranco. Lagos's division continued evolving on the vanguard, setting its 2nd Brigade on the left flank. Its 1st Brigade was not in position, because the troops were unaware of the tense situation, so Col. Lagos urged to force the march and advance quickly to their positions alongside the 1st Brigade of the artillery wrecked. N1. All this movement took place in front of the Caceres division on the front western side. The beginning at 1400 hours, the battle started unexpectedly, catching both sides unprepared. However, the Chilean right wing were attacked by Caceres' corps. The Chilean battleships began to fire upon the Peruvians, trying to ease the pressure. Caceres sent the Guardia Chalocar and Guarnition de Marina battalions against Barcelo, while a fraction of Col. Suarez' corps engaged Uriola, who wasn't formed yet. The strength of the attack forced the Chileans to retreat. At this time, Lynch's I Division wasn't yet in position, so the cavalry regiments and the artillery pieces withdrew from the front line. The Chilean counterattack at 1500 H. The first troops from the I Division arrived to their positions Lagu's right flank. 2 battalions were sent from the reserve to reinforce Lagos as well, along with 2 cavalry regiments. Caceres sent in the Concepcion, Libertad and Porcarpata battalions to increase the attack, but they were stopped and began to refold again. Col. Lagos ordered the Santiago 5th Line Regiment to engage Caceres in a pincer maneuver, and the rest of the brigade were to hit the Peruvians with a frontal charge. While the Santiago performed the flanking attack, 3 companies of the other units assaulted the trenches, but had to be reinforced with another 5. The Chileans succeeded in their attempt and took Redoubt N1, breaking the Peruvian line, and Caceres retreated to Redoubt N2. Breakthrough when the whole Lynch's division gathered and when Barbos's brigade reinforced the left flank, the Peruvian offensive weakened. Barcelo's brigade, now under Lt. Carl Demófilo Fuenz's leader, and backed up by soldiers of the 3rd Line Regiment, outflanked the position and unsettled the next 4 Peruvian redoubts in the I sector from behind and expelled its defenders, then advanced to Miraflores. Although the Peruvian resistance on the right was fading, on the center the situation was quite different. Here the defenders held their positions a while longer, but began to cede when another 2 Chilean regiments arrived. When these redoubts were taken, the 8th Battalion in Redoubt N5 withdrew, collapsing the entire Peruvian front. By 1830, Fuenz's leader arrived at Miraflores train station, while the cavalry regiments converged on his position. With the battle already decided, Echenique ordered the remaining troops not to enter in combat, dissolving his forces and sending them home, avoiding the combat to reach the capital's streets. Nevertheless, the positions at San Bartolomé and San Cristobal continued firing at the Chilean troops a while longer. Like Chorrillos, Miraflores was burned to the ground. By midnight, Rufino Torrico, mayor of Lima, surrendered the city to Gen. Baquedano. Finally, Lima had fallen after more than 5 hours of fierce combats and almost 2 years of war. Aftermath. Military and political consequences. The casualties in both sides were enormous. The Chilean army lost between 2,200 and 2,600 men, among them Juan Martinez, commander of the Atacama Infantry Regiment. Legu's 3 Division fought in the front line the entire battle, so had the biggest losses. 1,131 men were dead or wounded. The I Division lost 697 men, and the II Division 347 soldiers. The Chilean reserve suffered the loss of 346 men. The Peruvian army had losses estimated in about 3,200 men, but it's not been confirmed with official reports. After this victory, Lima surrendered and the Chilean army entered in the city of the Viceroys on January 17, 1881. Also, Nicolas de Pereira left the city in direction to the Andes, as many of his officers did. Among these officers was Carl Andrés Caceres, who led the resistance in the mountains against the Chilean occupation army. Another 4 years of war were necessary until the decisive Chilean victory at Huamachuco, on 1883. Bibliography. Meleif, Rafael. La Guerra del Pacífico en Imágenes, a Relatos Testimonios. Centro de Estudios Bicentenario 2007. Macuca, Francisco. Las Cuatro Campanas de la Guerra del Pacífico. Santiago, 1928. Bonis, Gonzalo. La Guerra del Pacífico. Editorial del Pacífico, 1955.